What did someone do in an emergency room that made you say, "You gotta be kidding me"? 1. My husband fell off his bicycle and reflexively put his arm down to break his fall. He came home scraped up and holding his shoulder in an odd, pushed back position. It was a weekend, so we couldn't see our family doctor. We live in rural Texas, where there's literally only one hospital per county. He was in excruciating pain when we arrived at the ER. After waiting an hour, a nurse gave him a visual exam and told him to ice his shoulder, take Tylenol, and see an orthopedist. She added that they couldn't give him any drugs. We were stunned. He couldn't move his arm, and any pressure caused sharp pain. We just wanted an x-ray, not pain meds. We drove to the next county's hospital, and it was the same story, no x-ray, no exam, and a referral to an orthopedist in a larger town. My husband had to sleep in a chair and go back to work without a diagnosis or doctor's note. 2 weeks later, a local orthopedist took a single x-ray and told us nothing was wrong, suggesting my husband was faking the injury for drugs. 5 weeks after the accident, a second orthopedist reviewed the x-rays and said, "Wow. My husband had a posterior dislocation of the shoulder, a rare and often missed diagnosis." He was referred to a specialty hospital in Houston, where he underwent surgery 6 weeks after the accident. He now has titanium pins in his shoulder for an injury that 3 providers said didn't exist. 2. I walked into the ER with a massive cut over my right eye. Blood was pouring down, and I could barely see. I had lost consciousness twice while driving, hitting a barrier on the highway that deployed my airbags. When I walked into the ER, kids cried, and women gasped. I looked like something out of a horror movie, covered in blood, staggering because my balance was gone. I had been hit above the eye with a pool ball, then repeatedly hit with pool cues. My retina was detached, my orbital bone was shattered, my right eardrum was ruptured, and I had a perforated lung from the accident, along with a broken ankle and torn meniscus. I stumbled up to the desk at the hospital, and the woman at admissions handed me a stack of forms, saying, "Please have a seat, fill these out completely, and bring them back when you're done." I remember laughing as I hit the floor, face first. I woke up in the operating room with them asking if I had been using drugs or drinking alcohol. I hadn't. I slept through the entire triage, x-rays, and a body MRI. My truck was totaled, but for the life of me, I still laugh about that woman telling me to fill out paperwork first. 3. 33 years ago, my older son was 6 months old and stopped breathing at home. We rushed him to the ER, where they needed to get an x-ray. As I waited, another mom with a 10-year-old daughter demanded to go ahead of us because her daughter had a broken arm. I told her that my baby had nearly died from lack of oxygen and deserved to be seen first. She yelled that her daughter was in pain and needed an x-ray immediately. I turned to the technician and said, "Do you triage cases here by severity?" The technician agreed and took my baby first. He was diagnosed with pneumonia. Years later, when my 12-year-old daughter fractured her arm, I didn't demand priority. Instead, I told the parents of a baby needing x-rays to go first. It's just common sense. My daughter's fracture was minor, and I was thankful it wasn't as severe as my son's case years earlier. 4. A teenage girl was brought in by ambulance after swallowing a bottle of 100 ibuprofen pills. She called her dad after running away from home. When her mom and stepdad arrived, the nurse, who knew the parents, said in front of the girl that she was just lying for attention. He called her a liar and discharged her. 6 months later, they discovered she wasn't lying. The ibuprofen caused a massive gallstone that required her gallbladder to be removed at 17. 5. My friend, a doctor in the ER, was hosting an American physician for a training exchange. The American doctor asked, "How many gunshot wounds do you see?" My friend replied, "Maybe 4 or 5 a year." The American doctor was shocked and said, "Wow, that's a lot. I thought you had gun control here." My friend clarified, 4 or 5 a year is a lot for us." The American doctor laughed and said, "Oh, I thought you meant per